the experience our international affairs commentator Shamsul Alam has gathered from United Nations General Assembly and also from some events which was in the top ranking breaking events, sir.
Well, a very good afternoon to Bangladesh, and of course, I'm glad to see you again, and of course, I'm happy to see Norman through Zoom. But as you were starting today's discussion, asking about the UNGA 80 that was held earlier last month, September. So, what I took my entire time there, I could understand the plight of the people towards the Israel and the Gaza issue. Today there are developments, but I believe in my understanding that this thing initially started in the high sessions debate which Donald Trump opened. And of course, it was supposed to be a 15-minute session, but he took almost 1 hour to deliver his powerful speech. And of course, one of the key highlights of this time's UNGA was towards the end of the debate session. We see Benjamin Netanyahu coming to the podium and an immense walkout from the UN Assembly Hall. Even I was there and I saw how it took place, and most of the leaders were cheering as they left that Assembly Hall. But today's ceasefire deal that has taken to storm in the media, and of course it had a starting, it had an introduction. Immediately after delivering the debate session speeches by the various world leaders, there was an Arab leader coalition meeting with Donald Trump, and of course it included leaders of Qatar, leaders of Pakistan, leaders of Turkey, who were all there with him, Donald Trump, in the White House. So these are some of the key points that I have taken notice of. But as of today, Donald Trump has successfully arrived at a negotiation, if not at a ceasefire between the two sides. How fragile this ceasefire is, as we know, the news says that the Rafah border is still closed for aid delivery into Gaza. So it is quite the hostile take between the two sides. We know that the Gaza is full of rubble right now, multiple dead bodies inside all of these buildings which have not been called for. But amongst the nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners that were released, some came back home to their families and some came back to nothing. So they're still in despair. And it's easily to say that how long and what kind of situation we'll see in the coming days, it's still as a question. Even this morning, BBC was telling that the ceasefire remains still very fragile.
What are the key terms of the ceasefire agreement regarding withdrawals, disarmament and prisoner exchange? Because I know you have gone through onto this 20 points approached by the United States presidents, which has been agreed later on. That's why today's scenario. But still these questions are coming from different and multiple avenues.
One must respect one another in this given this field, the 2 years of continuous warfare towards the Palestinian Strip or the Gaza Strip and the Palestinian people. And effectively what has happened is it has allowed a foreign character far over the Atlantic Ocean, USA, to come into this matter. Of course, their support towards the Israeli government, Benjamin Netanyahu, and also the Israeli parliament, the Knesset, that's what they call it, and how they have expansionist plans in the Middle East region. And of course it has concerning Turkey, it has concerning Qatar as well as Egypt. Let me just give you a point in fact here. When Qatar was attacked by Israel, and of course it was blamed that they were harboring Hamas terrorists. So of course Israel had overstepped its limit, and it has caused the Arab League nations to seek the guide and seek the assistance of United States President Donald Trump. And this time around, we see that the Sharm el-Sheikh declaration happened in Egypt. So these two countries are quite so related between the bridge between Hamas, Israel and the United States, especially right now Egypt. More than 20 foreign delegates were there during this signing, and of course comments were made about Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. But aside from that, even Keir Starmer was there saying that this would be the first time up until now from the 1990s that the two-state solution has a first real chance of happening. But as I was looking online, it says that Donald Trump is pursuant of calling for a disarmament of Hamas. Now, given historical records, even when you look at Hezbollah in Lebanon, when you ask them to disarm, they will of course retaliate in sorts. So whether or not Hamas will do that is still a big question. But I was looking at the media earlier today, various footage, video footages of white SUVs carrying these bodies into the Hamas compound and out of the compound. So these are things that media is picking up. But the question looms now, who shall be reigning in Gaza? Which government shall be imposed in Gaza for the Palestinian people?
Western media are hesitant to criticize on these 20 points where there is a direct indication that President Trump tried to give a mercy to Benjamin Netanyahu for killing 67,000 Palestinian people, and also from criticism from the Israeli people.
Now, this of course leads to a broader exchange, how the American media is of support towards Israel. Let me give you the details of someone who is known worldwide as a businessman, also someone who is supportive of Israel's IDF. This is of course Mr. Larry Ellison, who is of course in recent times purchased TikTok amidst other notions. Of course, he is the owner of Oracle, who has allegedly suppressed pro-Palestinian voices and cuts charity support amid this TikTok purchase. So not only that, back in 2017, Mr. Ellison donated 16 million US dollars to the organization called Friends of the Israel Defense Forces. This shows how the business sector of America has also opened up towards Israel. Of course, these are people who are supportive of the genocide that IDF has committed, has commenced on towards the Palestinian people. So once again, recent times we have seen how non-state actors such as Mr. Ellison have supported other governments. Of course, even if you look at the United States politics right now, they're going through a shutdown. And not just that, people say that Donald Trump is addicted to watching Fox News. I'm sure Norman Floyd Barnes, of course, have taken this down. But even in countries like United States, unfortunately, there is a media bias towards certain issues. And this would be one of those issues.
I have a very important question for Shamsul Alam Pantho, because he is keenly monitoring, following and watching this particular event. Sir, what are the main risks or obstacles you find that could threaten the durability of this ceasefire? Because still there are threats for Israel, that is Hezbollah, Houthi, Iraqi militias, Syrian militias. So this will have some impact on the peace deal between Israel and Hamas.
Well, before we go to a break, let me just draw a comparison between the various war fronts that we're thinking about today. Even if you look at Ukraine, the coalition of the willing is supportive of Ukraine, saying that they will take the burden of reconstructing Ukraine back to its former glory. But there is none who are coming out in the support of Gaza. But and if there is so, then it, in my opinion, it will only be Recep Tayyip Erdogan's Turkey, which is showing support towards the Palestinian people by not only supporting their morals, but of course sending in an aid ship towards Gaza that will of course deliver aid. But according to your question and what you were saying before, how fragile this environment is. There are the Houthis in Yemen, there is Hezbollah in Lebanon. The situation remains quite so volatile. Any moment this might break, but of course if it does break, it will only consider to be tarnishing to the reputation of POTUS, the President of the United States of America. This individual is the reason why such a hostage handover, a prisoner swap or likewise is happening. So of course, if any actor surpasses their line, there would be direct confrontational methods with the United States of America.